Okay. So I have your pre-sent in questions that I'm kind of going to go through and answer. Um, if somebody wants to jump in and interrupt with questions, feel free. Until then, I'm just kind of going to answer them as they came in. And then if you guys think of more as I finish, then we can continue a Q&A at the end. Does that sound good? Okay. Awesome. So the first question I had was, what's my fondest memory of SMA? Honestly, I had so much fun at SMA. It was kind of hard to pick one. But what really stuck out to me was what makes SMA so unique, right? The military aspect of SMA. So I really enjoyed always participating in the parades. That was something that you wouldn't really get at a normal high school. So that was number one to me. What doing the parades and participating in the local town events, things like that. I also really enjoyed that SMA had small classrooms. So I got to know my teachers on a more personal level than I would have at some other high schools if I had chosen to go to my districted high school. And overall, SMA is just a really unique school. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more in some of my later answers, but I got to do some really weird, cool things at SMA that I never would have gotten to do at Lakewood Ranch, which was where I was districted for. So my fondest memory of SMA overall is just that it gave me such a unique high school experience. And that was something that I was really interested in. I knew that it would make me a more interesting candidate for colleges. And so I liked that it was making me a more well-rounded, diverse individual. Just that I really stuck out on a resume on a piece of paper as somebody with unique interests. But I guess if I had to pick one, it would be the parades. I miss those. Those are always really fun. Um, what did I want to do but didn't get the chance to do? So these questions to me kind of go together. Um, and I've already touched on it a little bit, but SMA gave me the opportunity to do so many amazing things. Um, I was on rifle team, I was on drill team, I did equestrian, I did fencing. I learned Chinese. I don't remember anything from it, so don't ask me, but I learned it. Um, I got to do so many amazing things through SMA that I wouldn't have gotten to do at Lakewood Ranch or other local high schools. I dual enrolled. I learned about the local teen court of Sarasota. Um, I learned about I believe it's through the American Auxiliary organization. I forget exactly what they're called, but I went to Girls State when I was in high school. So just all of these amazing opportunities that I never would have really heard about or wouldn't have had the opportunity to do had I not gone to SMA. So sometimes I look back and I talk with my friends now, and I wish that I had had a little bit more of a like a Friday night football game experience. Um, but honestly, I really feel like SMA fulfilled so much of my high school time that I don't feel like I missed out on anything. Um, Going to SMA was never like a disciplinary choice for me. It was not something that my parents wanted me to go to because of any reason. It was something that I wanted to do for me. I thought it sounded like a really cool school and I thought it had really interesting opportunities. And I said I was districted for Lakewood Ranch High School. I went to eighth grade at Braden River Middle, and I I didn't want to go to a really really huge high school at Lakewood Ranch and not really get to know my teachers. Um, I I liked the atmosphere at SMA, and I think that SMA opened up a lot of doors for me that I wouldn't have had otherwise. So I don't feel like I missed out on any opportunities. If anything, I feel like I had more. Um, but I think it's a good life lesson to remember that even though if you like maybe don't like where you're at right now, or if you feel like you are missing out on things, um, so like later on in life, maybe you don't like your job, or maybe right now you don't like one of your teachers, um, or the school that you maybe get into or end up going to for college. It's important to remember that those things are just temporary, right? And to keep moving forward, onward, right? That's what we say at SMA. At least we did when I was there, onward. And that's that's a huge lesson I learned at SMA. And I don't think that's something I would have learned elsewhere. So I really appreciated that opportunity that SMA instilled in me. So the next question I have is, what rank did I leave? So I was a captain my junior year, and I had a lot of fun participating in the JRTC program. But after my junior year, I decided to participate in the full-time dual enrollment program. So I spent my entire senior year at SEF, so didn't touch JRTC at all. So I left as a captain. But I had a lot of fun my junior year doing that. Next up is, did SMA influence my choice in joining the JAG Corps? So somewhat, yeah. My dad is a retired Coast Guard JAG. So I spent a huge chunk of my childhood moving around. So I was going in and out of military bases. I'm really familiar with the military community. That was something that I just was born into. And I also knew that as my dad was a lawyer, that was something that I wanted to do from as long as I could talk. I was telling people I wanted to be a lawyer. And so as I got older, I developed a huge passion and love for traveling and learning about different cultures and different people. And so it became a goal of mine to live overseas. So as I was working towards law school, knowing I wanted to be a lawyer and chasing that passion of mine to try and live overseas, I was trying to join the JAG Corps. And that meant that I was looking at a branch that could put me overseas, which kind of cut out the Coast Guard, which broke my dad's heart a little bit. So as I was looking to join, I was primarily considering the Navy and the Army. And because of my time at SMA, I had a special place in my heart for the Army. I was kind of used to Sergeant Major Thomas yelling at me in the hallway, and it felt like the Army was maybe the right place for me. So when it came time to decide, I felt like the Army was the right place for me in the JAG Corps. So yeah, SMA did actually play a part in me selecting the Army JAG Corps over other branches. And I see that a question popped in, so let me see if I can try and
Erin,
ask that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Erin, if you don't mind me interrupting, can you just briefly go into, because unfortunately not everyone was able to read your bio. Can you just briefly go into what your course of action was after graduating from SMA, and then how you got into JAG, but also what JAG is?
Sure. So I answer some of those questions a little bit later, but I'll give a rundown now too. So after SMA, I went to the University of Florida and I did my undergraduate degree in 3 years. And part of that is because I had so many classes with help with the dual enrollment program. And I got a degree in psychology while I was there. And then after my time at UF, I went to the Charleston School of Law in South Carolina. And law school is a 3-year course. And so I worked for some firms while I was in law school, trying to kind of figure out what I wanted to do. I always knew that the Army or the JAG Corps was something that I was passionate about. So I was always kind of working towards that path, but dipping my toes in other areas to try and see maybe where the correct path for me was. And after I graduated law school, I studied for the bar. And at this point, I had already applied for and was offered a commission with the Army. But while I was waiting for that to pick up, I worked temporarily in a law firm on the national opioid litigation. I don't know if you guys are familiar with any of that. It was really popular in the news for quite some time. But I spent some time reviewing a lot of documents for that related to a lot of overdoses. I did a lot of review of police reports for overdoses, and specifically West Virginia, but also some other states. And then after that, I joined the Army. So that's sort of my career progression. I talk about in my Q&A some of the experiences that I did in undergrad and some of the experiences in law school and how that prepared me a little bit for the Army. But that's sort of my big picture bio. Did you want me to expound upon anything I just said there?
No, I know you have the questions and I don't want to jump ahead. Can you just
No, you're
explain
okay.
what JAG is,
Sure.
what it stands for? Mhm.
Sure. It stands for Judge Advocate General. So to explain it most simply, it's a law firm. We are a law firm in a branch of the military. So we provide, every military branch has its own JAG Corps. And within that JAG Corps, we provide that branch of service legal advice for a number of different reasons. So, uh, the biggest two reasons that we provide legal advice is for military justice, so for criminal actions, and that's my job. And the second one is for advising commanders so they can make sure that they are operating within their legal authority as a commander and, just not doing anything illegal, right? Because we want to make sure that everyone's operating within the scope of the law. So, those are the biggest two reasons we have lawyers in the JAG Corps. But just like any law firm, there's a ton of reasons why we have lawyers. So there's lots and lots of different types of jobs and legal jobs specifically that you can do in the legal or in the JAG Corps. Some of them are related to client services or legal assistance. And there you can have anybody come to you with any type of legal need, and you can help direct them to the resources that can help them, or you might be able to assist them within the scope of your law license. Uh, that sort of examples of that might be if somebody's going through a divorce and they need help figuring out where they can file or who to go to, or if they need references to different resources. Um, or if they need power of attorneys, we can do things like that. Or assistance with writing wills, we do things like that at legal assistance. There's also administrative law, and that is within the Army. We ensure that our own administrative procedures are being followed by regulation and that people are essentially following rules and that there's no like cowboys running wild, right? Because we want to make sure that people are having their rights protected. So we ensure that everything is like legally sufficient and nobody's operating outside the scope of their power. We also have a big branch of law in the military called national security law. They approach or they deal with a really wide variety of things as well. It could be something like addressing COVID protocol. So I live in Germany, and over there we have to deal with a lot of host nation issues. So over there, they seem to be changing a lot. It's a little bit different in the States. So maybe if you're overseas and you're doing national security law, you are writing a legal review or preparing a brief related to COVID protocol. Or maybe you are briefing a commander about the rules of armed conflict, and you need to know whether or not your commander can engage with the enemy combatant. So what you think of a little bit more when you think of the Army, right? Engaging in warfare type stuff. That's a little bit more national security law type stuff. So those are some really big branches of, some big areas of law within the JAG Corps. But even within that, there are so many more areas of law to be practiced within. And that's part of the reason I actually really like the JAG Corps, because when I entered, I didn't know what I wanted to do really. It's part of the draw that the JAG Corps had for me. I didn't want to join the civilian sector and say, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. I liked the idea that I would have to do a new job every year or two and learn a new skill. That to me is really interesting and keeps me on my toes. So the wide variety and exposure to different areas of law and of issues is definitely what you'll get in the JAG Corps. It's part of it's part of what makes it so interesting. So, big picture, though, to answer your question, the JAG Corps is the military's law firm, and so those are some of the things that we do within our law firm. Does that answer that question?
Absolutely. Thank
Okay,
you very much. Okay, so now
sure.
you can resume. So thank you.
Yeah, please feel free to jump back in if you want to ask further questions or point me in a certain direction. I'm more than happy to bounce around.
Absolutely.
So I think the next question I had was sort of pointing me in the undergrad and law school direction. And it was, how does my education in psychology help me in my current job? So I am a special victims prosecutor. And what that means is that I prosecute special victims crimes. Somebody asked that a little bit later in the Q&A, but those types of crimes are primarily crimes of sexual nature, so sexual assault. They also are crimes related to intimate personal or intimate partner violence, so like domestic violence. They also are related to child abuse. So those are kind of our three main categories of special victims. We have under the military criminal justice system, a number of other crimes, but those are our big three categories. So sexual related offenses, domestic violence, and crimes against children. And that is all I do. So I work with people every day, and those people are victims of crimes, victims of trauma. And so my work in psychology has helped me understand behavior and how people think. But and aside from and that's specifically what I just explained, that's what my day-to-day looks like. And to just distinguish that, some of my colleagues do what we call in the military justice system, we call it general crimes. And so an example of a general crime would be BAH fraud. So that's when somebody steals money from the government. They don't deal with like a victim in that sense, right? The victim there is the US government. Somebody stole money from them. So they don't need to really deal with victims and trauma in the same way that I do. They're dealing with pieces of paper that people signed that said, I live here and I'm entitled to this money when they weren't. So understanding how people think and how people behave has really helped me understand how to speak with victims of trauma. But aside from that, I I I worked with a number of agencies in both undergrad and in law school that have helped me develop skills. And empathy is a number one skill that you need to have in this job. But communication skills are really important. So learning how to connect with people and learning how to uh, get people to trust you is really important in my job. So not only do I need to know how to be a lawyer, but I also need to learn how to connect with people. So it's a very complicated twofold process. Um, and that one of those jobs that I did when I was an undergrad was I volunteered with the police department. Actually, I was a victim advocate, and with that role, I assisted victims of crime, ensuring that they were able to get resources to ensure that they were adequately provided for after they were victimized, and ensuring that they knew that resources were available to them, essentially. And so developing that empathy and those communication skills was really, really essential to the job that I do today. But aside from my job in psychology and how that has helped me today, big picture speaking, the biggest thing I could encourage you today is to follow things that bring you passion. Because if you're passionate about something, the work that follows doesn't really feel like work, right? I'm sure you've heard that before. That's kind of cliche, but it's honestly really true. So if you want to follow a path like mine, uh, then maybe it is a good route for you to do something like psychology and to work with crime victims and to try and develop those skills. But if you want to be an in-house counsel for a large company, maybe you don't really need to develop those interpersonal skills in that same way. And maybe a background in business or like employment or taxes would be more helpful instead of psychology. So it's a it's also okay if you don't know exactly what you want to do. So the idea is that if something interests you and you follow it, you can find a path for yourself. So I just encourage all of you guys to do that, if that makes sense. And I saw another question popped up.
Yes, they wanted to know, another class wanted to know what was the most valuable lesson that you learned at SMA.
Oh, I think I may have already touched on it a little bit, but it's perseverance and moving forward. It's knowing that even though times might be tough and you might not like your situation right now or the the lot the cards that you've been dealt right now, it's to know that you got to keep moving forward. It'll get better. I promise it gets better. It's a big lesson you learn in the army too, that even when things get hard, it doesn't matter. You got to keep going because it's not just, especially in the army, it's not just your life that depends on it. It's the people around you. It's your battle buddies that depend on you. You're not fighting for yourself. You're fighting for the people next to you, your soldiers. You're fighting for the people beneath you, and you're fighting for the people back home. You're fighting for a constitution, and that's what SMA is kind of about, right? It's about selfless service. It's about dedicating your life to the service of others. Um, that's what I'm really big on, and that's okay if that's not what you leave SMA with. That passion for. I'm all about acceptance of others, and you should follow whatever passion that you have. But that's what I took away from SMA: a life dedicated to others and moving forward even when it's hard. So I would say that those are the two biggest lessons that I learned.
And look at the type of law that you got into. You're definitely
Yeah,
helping others.
yeah. So I laugh about this one actually a lot when I tell people. So I said I knew I always wanted to be a lawyer. But then when I got to high school, I watched one too many Law and Order SVU episodes, and I was like, hey, that's the job for me. So I went to law school always knowing that this was the job I wanted to do, that I wanted to prosecute special victims crimes. And so you can see from my path that I chose a lot of jobs purposely that, or worked with a lot of organizations that would help strengthen my career path to get me here, because this was something that I always knew I wanted to do. Uh, and yeah, so I dipped my toes in some other areas of law, but this was always something that I was aiming to get towards. Something since I was sitting in the probably the same classrooms as you at 14 years old trying to obtain. I'm now 27. So it's been a long time coming. Uh, and I touched on it a little bit too. Even though this was something that I knew I wanted to do, I didn't know if I wanted to do it forever. I like to describe myself as a little bit of a chaotic person. I'm a little indecisive, and I spent my whole life moving around. That's super normal to me. I don't like the idea of having to pick something and settle in on it for the rest of my life. That terrified me. So I loved the idea of joining the army and moving around and having to do a new job every 2 years. So even though I knew this was a job that I was going to do, and I could keep doing it as long as I wanted to, because the army always wants people to help with this job. I would get the opportunity to do other jobs too if I didn't love this, or if I wanted to expand my or diversify myself. And I said too, when I was in law school, I worked on some other areas. I did some practice in family law. Um, so I was always interested in helping like special victims.
Mhm.
So what I thought family law was always helping special victims. I learned very quickly that family law is actually not really that. Family law is really helping people get divorced, and writing wills for people, which can be helpful. You're making a difference in somebody's life, but that wasn't super what I wanted to do. So that was good for me to figure that out. And then I said I did some work as a document review attorney, and I was working through police reports and looking at uh, sometimes really gruesome pictures of police reports of people who had overdosed, reading some really tragic stories of people who had left children behind, and just really, really sad. And in that job, I didn't really feel like I was making a difference. I just was reading really, really sad things and not feeling like I was contributing anyway to helping. And I knew that that wasn't the job for me, and I was ready to move on. So you learn through these little trials and errors of your life what is and isn't for you. And honestly, that's okay if you start something and you think, oh, this is what I've always wanted to do. And oh, just kidding, I learned that this isn't actually the right fit for me. I think that's a really big misconception that a lot of high schoolers have. It's something that I had, that you have to pick what you want to do for the rest of your life at 15 years old, and that's it. You got to pick it and you got to go with it, and you got to learn to love it. That's not true. There's a million and one different paths that you can take. It doesn't have to be linear, and there's lots of different areas that exist that are maybe really niche that you might not even know exist. That as you keep following your passion, you can find something. So if law is something that you are really interested in, if you continue to find things that you like and you go to law school, you can find an area of law that encompasses whatever you are passionate about. I think I kind of got off topic of whatever the original question was,
No,
but I hope that was
it's
good.
great. Well, I think
Good.
you answered a few questions that were on the list, but
Okay.
and just kind of pulling it all together with getting into why you got into psychology and the type of law that you did and special victims in JAG as well. So I think it's pretty interesting, and I think we all have watched a few SVU episodes, and so no, you can no, it's great. What you're doing is great, and getting into the JAG component of the questions that they have asked.
I can keep moving through. I think I answered that question pretty thoroughly. The next one I had on my list was what was my biggest challenge in law school? So I I am a classic people pleaser. I am also a little bit of a perfectionist. I'm pretty type A. I'm a little bit of an overachiever, and I didn't know how to tell people no. That was very, very hard for me. And I would fill my calendar up with volunteer things, with uh, like part-time jobs, with anything that could help increase my resume and diversify myself. And I, at one point in law school, was so overwhelmed because I didn't know how to say no. And I just felt I reached a point where I couldn't breathe. I had so much on my plate. And I had to learn the hard way that you cannot pour from an empty cup, that you have got to take care of yourself first. And I have made it really clear that I am really, really big on helping others, that I have a really special place in my heart for selfless service and a life dedicated to others. But that was a really hard lesson to learn, that you can't do that for other people until you learn to put yourself first. And that means prioritizing your physical and your mental health. So the biggest piece of advice, I know I keep saying that for like every qualifier here, so I apologize, but truly take care of your physical and your mental health. When you go to college or trade school or start a job next year, when you leave high school, I'm assuming most of you are seniors, it is so easy to fall off of a track of healthy behaviors because you don't have your parents there really keeping track of you anymore. And it is so easy to stop taking care of yourself and getting in a healthy habit of physical health, keeping a regular exercise routine, and making sure that you are developing healthy coping mechanisms for dealing with stress and dealing with anxiety and learning how to say no is absolutely an essential skill that you need in life. And that's something that I learned a little late in life. It was very hard for me to learn telling people no and learning to set boundaries. So that for me was very hard in law school, but I did overcome it, and I now am able to, even if I have an empty spot on my calendar, I know that if I need that for me, I have to tell people, sorry, no, I'm unavailable because that's my time. I have to recoup because if I tell somebody that I'm going to help them, that if I'm going to show up for them, they deserve 100% of me. They deserve my time, my attention, and they deserve me 100% fully present. And I can't do that for them if I'm not filling my own cup. So I think you should definitely prioritize that skill as you start to enter adulthood and learn to navigate those things without your parents breathing over your shoulders. The next question I have is, did I pass the bar on my first try?
Erin,
Sorry.
Sorry, I just wanted to welcome Sergeant Pellegrino and his class. I'm sure you may remember Sergeant P from being on the rifle team as well.
Yeah.
This is Erin Smith from class of 2013.
Hi, everyone.
So,
Hi, ma'am.
sorry, now you can continue. Thank you.
Sure, of course. So the next question was, did I pass the bar on my first try? I did. It was really hard and really exhausting, but I did it. So I followed a really strict schedule. I bought a study course. All I did for 2 months was live, breathe, and eat and sleep the bar exam. And then I took it. It's a 2-day exam. I died a little bit afterwards. I think I slept for a week. And then the results come out about 2 months later, and I passed. And I remember crying hysterically in a bar. So that was really good news and very exciting. But yes, I did. So I'm licensed in South Carolina. And because I work for the federal government, I can practice law where I live right now in Germany. It doesn't matter that I am licensed in South Carolina. But what that does mean is if I get out of the military, I have to either get a federal job or I can only practice law in South Carolina, or I have to get admitted to another bar and be able to practice in that state. So I'm still figuring that out. I'm planning on probably trying to do 20 years at the military as of right now. We'll see how that shapes up. But I am also planning on in the next year or two trying to take the Florida bar because my family's in Florida still. They're still in the Sarasota area. But yes, if you want anything and you work hard enough for it, you can get it done. That's my motto. So if studying for the bar and passing it is something you want to do, I believe anybody in this room has the capabilities to do it. So what area of law do I like the most? So I'm still sort of figuring this one out a little bit. I said I wanted to be a lawyer since I was a little girl. I said I watched too many SVU episodes. I knew I wanted to be a special victims prosecutor, try special victims cases. But this job is really long. The hours are really long. It's really tiresome. I'm actually not even in Germany right now. I'm in Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. I fly back and forth to the United States quite frequently when a victim of a sexual assault is victimized. Oftentimes they end up transferring back to the States. And so what that means is I and my team, we travel over to the States and do interviews with them. And so I very frequently will get on a plane, spend 24 hours traveling, meet with a victim, do about 3 hours or 4 hours maybe a FaceTime with the victim, get on a plane and spend another 24 hours traveling. So I have it can be really long hours, really tiresome, and sometimes it's a really thankless job. But I don't do this job because of the need for like praise and appreciation. Um, so it is it's something that needs to be done, and it's something that I'm really passionate about, and that's why I do it. So it is something that I keep doing because I feel that way. But I'm still trying to figure out exactly what I want to do with my life. So I'm still trying to do this for a little bit. And I said I want to stay in the army. But wherever I end up practicing law for good will definitely be in some area of law where I am helping people. I did a little bit of work in legal assistance, where I said you can help people with divorces or writing wills or any type of legal need that they come to you for. And that was really rewarding to me because those people are coming to you in a really emotional time of need and they don't know what they're doing or where to go. And I'm able to help them and give them resolution. And uh, they always leave in a better state after I am able to assist them. And for me, that is really fulfilling, knowing that I made somebody's life a little bit better. So, whatever area of law I practice, that's the kind of effect that I want to have on somebody's life. Uh, so we'll see exactly where that goes. I know that I mentioned for some of the new people that popped on, when I was in college, I did some work at the police department as a victim advocate. I also, when I was in law school, I volunteered at the homeless shelter, the legal clinic there. So all sorts of things that help others. But again, if that's not really what you're passionate about, that's totally cool. If you want to be a billionaire, then you can find something that gets you to be a billionaire. That'd be super cool. I want to be a billionaire too. Just find something that brings you passion and keep working towards that goal. Um, and next one's how did I choose that area of law? And I kind of already answered that one already, so I'm going to skip that one.
Sorry, excuse me, Erin. I just wanted
you're
to
fine.
be a little cognizant of your time. But I do want to see if you can touch on your JAG experience in the
Absolutely.
military. And then if we had any additional questions at the end, I wanted to be able to leave some time for them to be able to ask as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So I already touched on what is the JAG Corps, but in 10 seconds for the people that just jumped in, the JAG Corps is a giant law firm for the branch of the military. We do a wide array of legal needs for the military. That's the best way I can explain it. We do military justice. We do some types of international security law. We advise commanders to make sure that they're operating within the scope of the legal restrictions. But fundamentally, we are a giant law firm that answers to the military. That's it. Why did I join the JAG Corps? Also kind of answered that a little bit. I like the exposure to the different areas of the JAG Corps. You get to move around quite a bit. I like being part of a military community. You get a bit of an exposure to that while you're at SMA. It's a really unique, fun experience. It feels like a close knit family sometimes, and I got to be honest, it kind of is. And somebody asked what was my biggest realization in the military, and that was really actually what struck with me. So I mentioned I grew up in a military family, but my experience as a military dependent was so different than it is now as an active duty officer. What I've realized since joining the military is that compared to the civilian sector, the military is a complete ecosystem. So within the military, it's a place where it's a working environment. It's a place where your colleagues are your closest friends. It's a place to find resources, to find education, to advance, to find groceries, to go bowling, to work towards retirement. It's truly its own little world. Anything that you could possibly need, you can find within the military community. And to me, that is just an amazing little hub that I didn't fully appreciate as a military dependent. That is just so unique that you would never find working for a civilian employer. We have so many growths, so many opportunities for education and growth within the JAG Corps, at least. I can't speak for other areas of employment. But that the Army, my employer, pays for. They encourage me to grow and learn. And that's something I wouldn't find easily if I was employed by a civilian employer. Why one thing I haven't mentioned about why I joined the JAG Corps too. So I said, I liked moving around. I like helping others. I wanted to live overseas. I didn't know what type of law I wanted to practice, so I liked the exposure to other areas. But what I also didn't mention is it kind of forces me to work out. So I'm going to be super honest with you. I'm a really lazy person. I don't have really great self accountability when it comes to running. I've never once in my life been like, hey, let's go run a 10K for fun. I've never once in my life gone running for fun. Like I am not that person. And so I recognize that physical fitness is really important and it is so valuable to your health. But I'm just not that girl. That is not for me. So joining the military was really important for me to ensure that I had something to keep me accountable for physical fitness and to make sure that I was working towards my health. So I think that's a cool aspect of military because part of my job, literally part of my job, is ensuring that I am meeting the physical fitness standards, that I am strong enough to not just mentally be a lawyer, but strong enough physically to be a soldier. Because even though I'm a lawyer, I am still a soldier in the Army. And so I think that's a really cool, unique aspect that I enjoy, that the military ensures that I keep my fitness in check. I touched on this a little bit, but I think I'm going to go over it one more time in case anybody who's new missed it. But what motivated me to military justice? And so this kind of, there's clearly a theme here, but it brings me back to the SVU comment that I said earlier, and that I felt from a very early age a passion for helping victims specifically, but for helping others. And watching that show, it always struck me how these victims were left with this trauma, right? And they didn't know how to advocate for themselves. And in walks this district attorney, and she just commanded attention in that courtroom, and she advocated for those victims who didn't know how to speak for themselves, and she demanded justice for them. And to me, the people in that show were like superheroes in suits. And so I'm never going to be able to fly, and I'm never going to have like super speed or something. We already know I don't like running. But I can be a superhero in that way for somebody. I can advocate for somebody who can't speak for themselves. And that always really struck with me. And so that's why I wanted to do military justice, to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. And I kind of already talked about what constitutes special victims. So I think I ran through all my questions. So I'll open the floor now for some additional Q&As.
Absolutely. I know Captain Ramirez, they had a few students that were interested in JAG.
Yeah.
I didn't know if any other student had any other questions. They can either speak or type. Captain Spetsios did have to leave, but he did thank you for your time. And hopefully when you're back in Florida, you can come in for a visit.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah, I'll be there at Christmas time.
That would be great.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'd love to stop in and see people.
Oh, absolutely. Does anyone here have any questions? I'm sorry, we're in the political science class, so
Sure.
Um,
I can kind of talk while you're maybe waiting for questions to come in generally about how how I joined the JAG course specifically.
Mhm.
So I know everybody here needs to go through college first, but I can explain how that process works a little bit. So you can join the Army and then potentially try and have the Army send you to law school, and the law school can pay for that. But that's a pretty competitive program. And I didn't want to take any of my chances of not being a lawyer. I knew from day one that I wanted to be a lawyer. I didn't want to join the military and do other military things. So I knew that I wanted to go to undergrad and that I wanted to go to law school and that I was going to go to the military to specifically be a lawyer. So I didn't do that first option. I didn't join the military right out of high school, or I didn't do like a ROTC program in college. Um, what I did was I put myself through college, I put myself through law school, and then while I was in law school, I applied for what they call the direct commission program. Before I did that, I should add, I did an internship program with them that sort of exposes you to what it looks like. And I spent a summer working with the JAG Corps as an intern, which was awesome. But then when I was ready to graduate, I applied for direct commission. And I was very excited to find that I was accepted. I was offered direct commission. And what that means is after I passed the bar exam, I was then invited to like join the military, and I raised my hand and I swore, I said the oath and I swore in and was an officer in the United States Army. And it was kind of surreal, to be honest. But that was my process. I didn't go through like basic training. I did a very, very different version of training than most soldiers do. So our direct commission program is very, very different, and it's very similar to what other branches like doctors and veterinarians do. But yeah, that's kind of how I did that. I applied in law school and was offered it, and then joined as an officer. I was never a candidate or anything.
It's nice that there are options, that you presented that there are different options of getting into the JAG. We do have a few questions
Sure.
here. Do you want to come a little bit closer in your class? No? Oh, okay.
I don't bite.
No, there is actually a question. It was the last one on the list here. They really want to know the emotional toll it takes with handling special victims cases.
Yeah. So this job is not for everyone. I will tell you that right now. I work with some really great people, and they are not. Sometimes we talk about who could or couldn't take this job, and as much as I love them and they are great attorneys, they don't have the skills that they need to deal with victims. They would not be good at this job. And for those of you who joined in late, I touched on it a little bit earlier. My job is not just being an attorney. A lot of times it is having to have really, really good people skills. I have to deal with, I have to talk to victims who have endured a traumatic event. And I am exposed to trauma on a daily basis. Sometimes my job is really rewarding in the sense that I get a conviction that I helped. Somebody comes to me and they say I was assaulted, and I say I believe you. Let's work to get you justice. And then I go through the whole process with them, and we get a conviction, and somebody goes to jail and is held accountable for that. Other times, somebody comes to me and says, I was assaulted, I was victimized, and they really truly feel that they were a victim of a crime. And unfortunately speaking, sometimes the law doesn't always see that they are that a crime was committed. And so sometimes my job is really hard because I have to tell people, even though you were traumatized, like that something really bad happened to you, we're not moving forward to a court martial, that this isn't a crime. And so it is an emotionally heavy and hard job. So I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure that I'm not pouring from an empty cup, that I am putting my physical and my mental health. You'll see everything's coming full circle. That I am taking care of myself because I cannot help other people unless I'm doing that. And it's important to know that when people come to you with their trauma and their problems, that it is not yours to take on. That even though I am helping these people, that their problems aren't mine. I cannot make them mine because if I do, I can't do my job. And so learning to keep a comfortable distance with the trauma that people are telling me and still being empathetic and caring, but knowing that I can't internalize their issues. It's hard. I've gone to therapy. I recommend therapy for everybody. You guys know I have a degree in psychology. I tell everybody to go to therapy. I think it's a great tool. You learn so many coping mechanisms, and just learning self-awareness. I think is a really, really great tool to make sure that you're keeping yourself in check.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you. That's super important. We do have a question here from Sergeant Major Lee. What part of Germany were you stationed in?
I'm currently
Are
in
you?
Kaiserslautern. Were you in Germany, Sergeant Major?
Let's see.
Was
Mhm.
I in Germany? Yeah, I was in Germany.
Oh,
Where
hey.
are you at now?
Hey, I'm in Kaiserslautern. I work on Panzer Kaserne.
Oh my gosh. That's out by
Yeah,
Ramstein, right?
yeah,
That's like a big hub there in Europe now.
yep.
No, I was not there. I was in like a little place by Hanau.
Oh, I think that's closed now.
Yeah, it is. It is. And then I was in Fulda back when there was the East-West German border. Now that's really telling my age.
Yeah.
Above 28, right? But
Hello.
hey, Sergeant Major Smith wants to get in, or Sergeant Major Lee wants to get in there. I'm sorry, Aaron. Hey, thank you for your service, ma'am. God bless you.
It's good to see you again. Thanks.
Yes. What part of Germany are you stationed in again?
I'm at Panzer Kaserne in Kaiserslautern.
Oh, I was Baumholder, Heidelberg,
Yeah.
Grafenwehr, and Vilseck. Yeah.
Oh, too funny. Yeah. Heidelberg closed, but I heard that place was awesome.
Oh, yeah, Heidelberg was yeah, it was definitely worth the weather sometimes.
Yeah, I heard. So, and I've been to Baumholder for some work. Y'all get so much snow up there. We don't really get that in Kaiserslautern.
Now, Baumholder was sort of a punishment, more or less. So, yeah.
Did you get in trouble, Sergeant Major?
No, not at all. Not me. I'm just saying it was being there itself was the punishment. So, yeah.
That's too funny. Yeah.
Well, like I said,
Being in
thank you. So you're a JAG. What
Yeah,
what unit are you assigned to then?
I'm under 21st TSC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And how long have you been? We missed most of it. Unfortunately, we have pictures today. But how long have you been?
I heard. That's okay.
How long have you been a JAG lawyer?
So I commissioned in 2020, and Germany's my first duty station. So I arrived in like December/January of 21, and I've been in Germany since. I'm supposed to PCS this upcoming summer, and I'm hoping to go to Korea.
Oh, you want to go to Korea?
Yeah, Sergeant
Wow.
Major.
Yeah.
Look, are drugs still illegal in the military? Because what you just said about wanting to go to Korea.
I know,
Oh,
right? I'm like,
stop.
yeah, yeah.
That's
Y'all are
I
funny.
knew I was gonna say something stupid. Hey,
Anyway,
we
thank you for
do-
your service. Do you guys have any questions for Cap Smith? No, not at all. No questions.
Well, I do have this recorded, so I will be sharing it with all staff, so you can get the full discussion here of Ms. Smith's experiences. I do have one last question for you. It says, how did you build up your public speaking and presentation skills? Is there any particular experience that was most transformative?
the country project.
Yes.
Huh. I don't know. I did speech and debate with Major Jalot when I was in high school. I have always found myself in areas that involved public speaking. I used to sing quite a bit, and so performing was something that I did quite a bit. I get stage fright. I get nervous. I get dry mouth. That still happens to me. I'm still human. Sometimes right before I go into court, I feel like I have to throw up. I mean, nerves are nerves. I mean, that happens. So I just continue to work, and to prepare is really what I do. I over prepare. And when I do that, I'm confident that I know the material. It's up in my head. I always have a safety. You can't see, but I have my laptop next to me with everything wrote down. I have notes. So I always have something prepared next to me. So that way if I panic, I I have something ready. But yeah, it's about confidence too. It's about knowing that what you are saying to others is the right thing. So just prepare adequately and be confident in yourself that you're not saying something dumb, that you prepared for this, that you studied for it, that you researched for it, whatever it is, and then what you're saying has merit. What you're saying is informed, and as long as you have confidence in yourself, then if you believe in yourself, I think that helps your public speaking some. So I didn't really do anything specific for it. It's just kind of a mindset to try and kind of get in your head, or maybe get out of your head is a better way to put that.
Perfect. Well, we really do appreciate your time and spending an afternoon here with us. I know you have to get back to your caseload, but we really do appreciate your time. And hopefully when you are in the Sunshine State or back home, if you can pop in, we would love to meet you in person. But really do appreciate everything you're doing and your service, and just you are a superhero. So just really
That's so kind
proud
of you to say.
that you are part of SMA and to share your experiences. So thank you, Erin.
No, thank you. I'll definitely coordinate with you, and I'd love to see everybody when I'm back in December. So I'll try and exchange some emails with you. I'd love to do that. I'd love to see people.
Excellent, excellent. Please do stay in touch. And
Okay.
yes, so thank you. Yeah.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you
Erin.
for your time.
Take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you. Have a safe flight back.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye, everyone.
I did cry.
Yeah, we had some tears. See?
Yeah, what did you do? So inspirational.